guys, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. While you're going to be having some cool visuals to look at, inspired by this weird, like, cow sketch on the side, I'm going to be talking about something a little bit more personal and I feel relevant to what we're going through this year. But I'm going to be bringing in some like examples from my own personal life. Definitely let me know what you think this painting is about. However, if you're able to focus on me talking about something completely different and also on this painting, I really would love to know what you think this painting is about because I've yet to figure it out. So I'm really thinking about what's going on right now, and it seems like a lot of what wasn't working, previous structures that just were not working, didn't have a firm foundation, they're being broken down now, and hopefully some newer structures are going to be replacing those. So that's, I feel like we're like, 2020 is marking kind of like an end and a new beginning. At least that's my interpretation of it. And obviously, I have a positive take on things, and I would like to think that something better is about to replace the old foundation that just was not working. I'm going to be using this idea of you must fall before you rise as a guide for the story that I'm going to be telling you guys about how I came into my own alignment and I'm doing everything that I have always kind of thought that I could only dream of doing. And I'm perfectly in alignment of that now. Of course, it's a lot of hard work and nevertheless, but it feels extremely right, the path that I'm on now. But it really wasn't like an easy transition or that I just woke up one day and I'm like, okay, I'm in alignment. Like it took a lot of falls and a lot of challenges along the way. I hope that by sharing some of my own challenging experiences that it will give you a little bit of a positive take on what could potentially happen as a consequence of 2020. Of course, nobody knows, but I just think it's important to really construe things in a positive light during these crazy times. So I wasn't always this happy, this positive, this person that I am today. I honestly feel like in many ways that I completely died and was reborn again. I don't even recognize who I used to be. And if I feel like just telling you guys kind of my past feels a little bit strange. It's like I'm talking about another person. I basically didn't have a childhood like most kids would like. I didn't have a lot of fun as a kid. I constantly had a lot of extracurriculars. My mom had basically packed my entire schedule. It was super strict, a lot of expectations from me. I mean, she's definitely the definition of a Chinese tiger mom, and that was kind of my life. And I didn't have time to hang out with my friends very much. Like a lot of pressure to do well at school and to do well at piano, tennis, and I essentially also like if I did well in something, I wouldn't get any sort of positive verbal affirmation. So it was like no matter what I did, it was always negative feedback. So I definitely didn't feel supported. And then also on top of that, the idea of like artist did not even, it was not a vocabulary that was possible in the kind of environment that I grew up in. So I didn't think that it was even a possibility. And so I didn't even consider it. And at some point, I developed eating disorders as well in attempts to control my body. And at the time, I was playing professional tennis, and it honestly just took a really big toll on my body, and I had to give that up. And also I was struggling to pay attention. I already think I have ADD, but it just made everything really awful. It was impossible for me to keep connections in my life. I began to struggle with friendships. I didn't know how to hold on to any friends anymore, and I didn't want them because I was so used to losing everyone. So it was really rough, and the eating disorders lasted for about 10 years of my life. I had every possible type of eating disorder for different amounts of time, and it just became a really big part of my identity and a way for me to try to control things. And eventually I was also getting myself into really unhealthy relationship dynamics, which did not at all help me with my growth or my self-esteem at all. And that was, yeah, those were really difficult times for me. And I didn't go to art school. I was actually studying philosophy and psychology because, again, I didn't think that I could actually become an artist. It didn't seem like it was possible. But there came accumulation. There came like a point, a breaking point for me where everything that I had ever known, all the things that I grew up with, my personal identity, my sense of what was right and wrong, all the challenges that I went through, my relationship with my body, my relationship with friends, my not having any friends, like everything, difficult relationships, all this stuff, it just broke me. I completely got destroyed. and and it was like this really spiritual experience for me when I look back, but also in the middle of it, I remember it just got too much at one point and my brain collapsed. I couldn't think anymore. And that was when somebody told me about this book called The Power of Now, which I know like everyone has read it at this point, but really at the time it really helped me. And I hadn't really gotten into any of the spiritual, like I didn't know anything about those things yet. And it was more just I was going through something complete so crazy. My brain was not functioning anymore. I collapsed and that was when I was reading this book about just presence, and there was nothing else that I was able to do except be present, and I was in so much pain. I remember I was having panic attacks constantly. I was crying. I felt so alone. It was just the most awful. I was it was just awful. Everything was awful. But at the same time, it was the first time I like accepted and confronted all of those emotions and I didn't have a choice. It was in complete surrendering of everything that was, all of that pain, that I realized that there was something so much more united behind our limited subjective human experience, that there's actually this wholeness that you can tap into and that I was a part of, that I existed without my conscious awareness or without my mind telling me that I exist. That when I wasn't able to think, that when I collapse, and I am somebody who like values my mind and my ability to think intelligently. So when I wasn't able to do that, I was afraid that I would lose myself. And I think a lot of us are afraid of that, to lose ourselves when we cannot think, and that we don't know who we are if we don't have the ability to construe that with our minds. And so when I lost that, I was confronted with who I really was, and this entity that was much more vast, much more infinite than I had ever, than I was able to actually experience before that, when I was still limited by my own mind comprehension. So I'm so freaking thankful for the fact that I guess early on in my life, I was just confronted with so many difficulties from every angle, and I didn't understand the concept of self-love. And through the experience of completely falling, that the window of understanding what love really was, and love for myself, but love for humanity and people, and like even just like a tree, just for colors and for everything, like really expanding my mind and expanding my heart, that became a possibility. And I really grew into myself. And that, it was a long process. I literally couldn't think for many, many months. If you would ask me a question, it would take me like a solid 2 minutes for me to answer, because I just couldn't even, like, I had to grasp the question. So I really, really like reached that level of bottom. But since then, it's been many years now, I would say. I think it's been like maybe, yeah, it's almost 5 years now. Every single year, I've just made so much progress in the direction of my true alignment. And to bring it back to the theme of this video, for like how I experienced 2020 to be, and or I mean, in a way, I hope that this is what we're going through, that there is a light at the end of this tunnel, that we're really crashing globally right now, so that we're going to be able to actually be in alignment with what we're supposed to be doing, and hopefully take things like global warming issues much more seriously, because that's really what is important, and not all of the subjective human experience. I mean, if there is no future for humanity, then what the hell are we even talking about? Let's be real. So, anyway, the positive to the story is that I've been every single year much more aligned on my path ever since the crash, and my entire experience of life and everything has never been the same. It really feels like a rebirth. I'm not the same person. I wasn't doing things that made me feel good about myself. I wasn't at all in my alignment prior to the crash, and now I'm making my dreams come true. Things feel so much more clear. And I've learned that my purpose is to serve others at the end of the day. And I think all of our purpose is tied to that in one way or the other, because this thing called life is much bigger than all of us. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this painting and my random talk. It was much more personal today. And if you did like it, hit the subscribe button. I post weekly videos like this one. Yeah, until next week, guys. Ciao.